high stakes testing. All education majors need to pass their certification praxis tests before you're even able to apply to student teach. This is a very important test, and it makes good sense to be prepared for this test. One of the ways you can prepare for this test is to visit the Education Testing Service website specifically made for Pennsylvania. And once you log into the site, you're going to scroll down to where you can see your testing areas. And for most of the secondary education certification areas, you'll come down here, grades 7 through 12. You click on there, and now you will see all your content areas. We have biology, chemistry, communication, earth and space, English, mathematics, and social studies, and physics. Now, if you're arts and Spanish, I'll show you where to go in a minute. So let's look at biology for an example. For any certification area, you click on the link here. Well, first, this is your test code, and this is the score you need to get to pass. So let's just click on the biology here, and here's some information you will see. I strongly suggest that you open up this PDF, this study companion, and you look at it carefully, because this will give you a lot of good tips on how to take that particular Praxis exam. This is a free 50-page document on taking Praxis, and it gives you a good overview of that particular test, a study template, study topics, test taking tips, and it even gives you some sample questions. So you will want to scroll through this. And let me just show you a couple things that will appear in any certification area. The one thing I like is the test at a glance. It would tell you how long is the test, how many questions there are. And this is important because this is a time test. And you need to get that rhythm down of taking that test within that particular time period. So you want to practice taking test questions in a timely fashion. And this also gives you an overview of the content categories and what percent of the test comes from questions from that particular area. And also gives you some more. So you want to read this very carefully. Another thing I like is it actually gives you what they are focusing in on the test. So there's a nice outline here of key concepts that they expect you to know or be familiar with in order to pass the test. So if you're thinking of studying, don't just open up a book and start reading it. You could open up a book or do web searches, but look at these topics so you know what is expected for that particular test. And it's important to familiarize yourself with the test questions. The chances are you'll be taking this test online at a testing center. And each of the booklets give practice with sample test questions. So you might want to look them over, answer the questions, and then you can also look at the answers and see if you got them right. And then they even explain how they got that answer. So you might want to look at that. And then there's some strategies to prepare for success. Again, it's very important to prepare yourself for this test and pass it the first time. You don't want to have to take it twice or more. And if I go into another content area, English, click on that. Again, there's the study companion, just like the other subjects. But here's something I also want to show you, and this will cost money. You don't need to get this. This could be enough for you. But if you feel like you want more, look at these videos to see what's expected on the day of the test. But also, I will look at the booklet here and click on Buy Now. And what they're selling here is an actual sample test questions. And you could get you get the value pack, you get both forms. I have not seen these in action, so I don't know if they're good or not, but you might want to play around, and you can see it's a 90-day subscription. So you might want to time when you're going to need this to help you prepare for this test. But what I can see is it has online practice questions in a simulated test environment. And that is important. If you're taking a test on a computer, you don't want to have to spend a few minutes to try to get familiar with the way the test questions are laid out. By doing this, you will save yourself some time. You could jump right into it and take that test and pass it. Now back at the main page, if you are an art major or a Spanish major, that is a K12 certification. So you don't just look in the secondary ed, you look in K12 or PK12. And you can see here, here's art right here. That would be the test you need to take. And for Spanish, it will be down here. But for K12 certification areas, art and Spanish, there is an additional test you need to take, and that's the fundamental subjects test. So you'll need to take 2 Praxis, so it's best to be prepared for both, and you might want to look this over also. Now you might say, oh, I'm a great student. I know my content area very well. I don't need to prepare for this. Well, let's look at some statistics. These are statewide statistics, and there is a link on my site that you can get to this. But here's art for an example. Art, for an example, for the past 3 years has a 68% pass rate. I mean, the first time they took the test, they took it the second time, they had 82%. And biology, you can see their percentages. English, in the 80s. Mathematics, it's much lower. Spanish is also lower. Now, Spanish has another option, and I'll show that link. You have a choice of 2 tests. You could take the Spanish test, or you could also take T, and I'll show that in a couple seconds. And of course, Spanish and art, you need to take the fundamentals, and you can see they have a pass rate in the high 80s. And social studies, in the 80s and 70s for the second attempt. Hopefully you won't have to take it twice. Be prepared. Pass it the first time. And as you can see, for Spanish certification, there is another option to take another test. You might want to click on this link and see what other options you have. If you have any questions about Praxis or whatever, please contact your advisor, and you can also contact me. And if I can't answer it, I would forward it to the appropriate person to respond to your answer. And I do provide some more links here. There are some sites that you can pay more money to be prepared. And here's a link back to the average statewide pass rate. So please prepare and be ready. And also, if you're a student teaching in the spring, you will need to have all this done and completed by October 1st. That means you should be taking this test sometime this summer.